Alex had spent most of his life fixing things. On the massive intergalactic starship Serenity, he was known as the go-to mechanic. Whether it was a broken engine, a malfunctioning airlock, or a damaged control panel, Alex could fix it. His days were filled with grease, wrenches, and quiet moments of concentration. He was used to being in the background, never one to draw attention. But today, something was different. The ship was heading toward a distant planet on the edge of the galaxy, a place known for its strange energy fields and mysterious ruins. The crew was excited, but Alex felt only the steady hum of routine. The corridors were bustling as everyone prepared for the mission ahead. The starship was filled with all kinds of people from various races, humans, aliens, and a few species that Alex had only ever heard about in stories. But one person stood out more than the others: Thalros, a dragon veteran. Thalros wasn't your average passenger. His enormous wings were folded tightly against his back, but they were still a striking sight. His scales shimmered in deep shades of gold, and his eyes gleamed with a knowing wisdom that came only with years of battle. He had seen it all: wars, destruction, and unimaginable dangers. A battle-worn veteran, Thalros was a living legend, respected across the galaxy. It was hard to ignore him, especially for Alex. The dragon's presence commanded attention wherever he went. But Alex had never been one to be intimidated. He knew the value of kindness, even toward someone as legendary as Thalros. That was why, when he saw the dragon standing in the crowded corridor, his massive frame towering over everyone else, Alex didn't hesitate. "Excuse me, sir," Alex said, approaching him cautiously. Thalros turned, his golden eyes studying Alex for a moment. There was no immediate recognition in the dragon's gaze. After all, Alex was just a mechanic, an ordinary human among so many extraordinary beings. But something about the way Alex spoke caught his attention. "I noticed you've been standing for a while," Alex continued, gesturing to the empty seat beside him. "If you'd like, I can offer you my seat. I don't mind standing." Thalros blinked, clearly surprised. It wasn't often that anyone, let alone a human, offered something so simple and kind. Most people avoided the dragon, intimidated by his size and reputation. But Alex didn't see Thalros as a warrior, a legend, or a creature of myth. He saw him as someone who could use a break, just like anyone else. The dragon studied him for a long moment, his gaze softening ever so slightly. "You would offer me your seat?" Alex nodded. "Yeah, I'm used to standing. It's no trouble." Thalros stood there for a few more seconds, his mind working. He wasn't used to being treated this way. Most people feared him, even revered him, but no one dared to offer such a gesture. He was about to refuse when something stopped him. Maybe it was the sincerity in Alex's voice, or maybe it was the fact that the human seemed unaffected by his dragon form. Whatever the reason, Thalros sat down, his massive body settling into the seat with a creak of the metal frame. "Thank you," Thalros said, his voice deep and rumbling, though there was a note of genuine gratitude in it. "I don't often receive such kindness." Alex smiled, feeling a little awkward. He wasn't used to making someone like Thalros feel grateful, but it was a good feeling. He had done something simple, and yet it had made a difference. "I just think everyone deserves a break now." And then, Alex said with a shrug, "Even dragons." Thalros chuckled, a sound that was both rumbling and soft, like a storm passing over the ocean. "It's rare to meet someone like you, human. Most of your kind would not dare to speak to me." Alex couldn't help but laugh. "Well, I guess I'm not most humans." The two sat in a comfortable silence for a moment. Alex had no idea what to say next, and Thalros seemed content to just enjoy the quiet. There was something calming about the dragon's presence, despite the power he radiated. It was a reminder that not all strength had to be intimidating. As the minutes passed, the ship's crew continued to move about, preparing for the upcoming mission. The soft hum of the engines echoed in the background, a constant reminder of the journey they were all on. But in this moment, It felt like time had slowed down. It was just Alex and Falrose, two beings from completely different worlds, sitting in a small corner of the ship, sharing an unexpected moment of peace. Finally, Alex broke the silence. "So what brings you to the edge of the galaxy? I mean, no offense, but you don't exactly look like you're here for a vacation." Falrose let out a low growl of laughter. "You're right. I've been to more battlefields than I care to count. I'm here for a mission. Something important, though I'm not sure of the details. All I know is that it involves finding an ancient relic hidden in the ruins of a long-lost civilization. The Galactic Council believes this relic holds immense power, and they don't want it falling into the wrong hands." Alex nodded thoughtfully. He had heard rumors about these ancient relics, artifacts from the time before the current galactic order, said to hold unimaginable power. But he didn't think he would ever be involved in something like that. His job was fixing things, not hunting down ancient treasures. "It sounds dangerous," Alex said, his voice quiet. Falrose gave a single, solemn nod. "It is, but we have no choice. The relic must be secured before it falls into the hands of those who would use it to destroy worlds." Alex thought about that for a moment. There was something about the way Falrose spoke that made it clear he wasn't just another soldier sent on a mission. He had lived through wars and destruction, seen civilizations rise and fall. The weight of his words carried a depth that Alex could feel deep in his chest. "I understand," Alex said, his voice more serious now. "You're not just protecting the relic. You're protecting everyone." Falrose looked at him, surprised by the human's insight. "Yes, it's not just about power. It's about balance. The galaxy is on the brink of chaos, and we need to keep things in order. If that relic falls into the wrong hands, everything we've worked for could be undone." There was a pause as Alex processed this. The conversation felt different now. He wasn't just talking to a dragon, but to someone who had lived a lifetime of struggles, sacrifices, and hard-earned wisdom. "Well," Alex said with a small grin, "I'm just a mechanic. But if there's anything I can do to help, I'll do it. After all, I owe you for the seat." Falrose smiled, a rare thing for someone so battle-hardened. "I might just take you up on that offer, Alex." And so, in that small, quiet corner of the Serenity, an unlikely bond had begun. A human mechanic, always working behind the scenes, and a legendary dragon warrior, both tied together by fate and a simple act of kindness. Neither of them knew it yet, but the journey ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine, and their lives would change forever. As the ship continued its voyage toward the edge of the galaxy, the weight of what lay ahead began to settle in. Alex, though just a mechanic, now found himself on a path that would lead him into the heart of a galaxy in peril. And the dragon, once an untouchable veteran, found himself facing a new ally who would help him in ways he never expected. The future had never seemed more uncertain, but for the first time, Alex felt something else. The journey to the edge of the galaxy felt longer than Alex had expected. Days blended into each other, and the silence of deep space pressed down on the crew of the Serenity. Alex kept himself busy with repairs and adjustments, staying out of the way of the officers and elite crew members. The atmosphere on board was tense as they approached the coordinates where the ancient relic was believed to be hidden. Falrose spent most of his time alone. Though Alex had seen the dragon occasionally walking the corridors, his mind clearly preoccupied with the upcoming mission. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the calm before the storm was growing heavier by the day. He had been on missions before, small ones, where the stakes were low, but nothing like this. This mission felt like it was much bigger than anyone realized. The relic they were searching for was rumored to be a key to unlocking powers that could shift the entire balance of the galaxy. And if the wrong people got their hands on it, Alex didn't want to think about what might happen. One evening, as the ship drifted toward the final approach, Alex found himself in the crew's mess hall, eating a simple meal. He'd been spending most of his time in the engine room, making sure everything was running smoothly. But now, with the relic so close, his mind wouldn't let him rest. He glanced up and saw Thalrose sitting at the far end of the room, looking out the window toward the stars. The dragon was always alone. He didn't seem to have any close allies or friends on board. Most people either kept their distance out of awe or fear. The last thing Alex wanted was to bother Thalrose, but after their conversation about the relic, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than the dragon was letting on. With a deep breath, Alex pushed his plate aside and walked over to Thalrose. The dragon's massive form seemed even more intimidating up close, but there was a strange warmth in his eyes as he turned to face Alex. Thalrose," Alex said hesitantly, trying to break the silence. "Mind if I sit?" Thalrose gave a slow nod, his golden eyes watching Alex intently. "You've been quiet lately. What's on your mind, human?" Alex hesitated for a moment, unsure how much he should pry into the dragon's business, but the curiosity was getting to him. "I've been thinking about this mission. You said the relic was important, but what exactly is it? What does it do?" For the first time since their encounter, Thalrose seemed to hesitate. He shifted his wings slightly, as if trying to make himself more comfortable, though he clearly wasn't at ease. After a long moment, he finally spoke. "The relic is an ancient weapon, a source of unimaginable power. It was created centuries ago by a now-forgotten race, one that was far more advanced than we are today. The power it holds is said to be capable of reshaping entire worlds, even bending time and space itself. That's why the Galactic Council wants it so badly." Alex's brow furrowed. "But you said it had to be kept safe. If it's so powerful, why hasn't someone already found it?" Thalrose looked out the window again, his gaze distant. "Because the relic is hidden in a place that no one can easily access. It is buried in the ruins of an ancient city, deep within a planet where the very atmosphere makes it nearly impossible to survive. The landscape is treacherous, and the relic is protected by mechanisms that even the most advanced technology cannot bypass. Only a few know how to unlock its secrets, and even fewer would dare to try." Alex's mind raced with the possibilities. The more he thought about the relic, the more he understood why it was so crucial to keep it out of the wrong hands. "And you think someone's already after it, don't you?" Thalrose nodded grimly. "I know they are. There are rumors of a rogue faction of mercenaries, beings who want the relic for their own ends. They believe that with its power, they can overthrow the Galactic Council and rule the galaxy." Alex's stomach turned at the thought. The idea of anyone, let alone a group of mercenaries, gaining control of such power was terrifying. He had no idea how the galaxy's leaders would handle such a threat, but he didn't have much faith that they would be able to stop it. Thalrose, it seemed, had seen this kind of danger before, and it had cost him dearly. "I get it now," Alex said, his voice low. "This isn't just about finding a relic. It's about saving the entire galaxy from falling into chaos." Thalrose met his gaze, and for the first time, there was a flicker of respect in the dragon's eyes. "Yes, human, it's about survival. But it's not just the galaxy at stake. If the wrong hands control the relic, it could mean the end of everything. Our very existence could be erased." Alex swallowed hard. The weight of the situation was starting to sink in. He had no idea how to fight against something so powerful, but one thing was clear: he couldn't just sit back and let it happen. As the ship began to descend toward their destination, Alex's thoughts were racing. He couldn't imagine the dangers that awaited them on the surface, but he knew that whatever happened, he had a part to play. Thalrose was a dragon warrior, one of the greatest fighters in the galaxy, but Alex had something the dragon didn't: an understanding of technology and mechanics that could prove useful in a fight. When the ship finally touched down on the planet, the crew scrambled to prepare for the mission. The ground below them was rocky and harsh, a barren landscape that seemed untouched by life. The air was thin, and the sky was a dull gray with clouds swirling overhead. It was a place that didn't welcome visitors. Alex, Thalrose, and a small team of soldiers exited the ship and began their trek toward the ruins. The journey was difficult, the terrain treacherous, but Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. Time was running out. They had no idea how close the rogue mercenaries were, but Alex had a bad feeling that they weren't the only ones looking for the relic. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, the ancient city revealed its secrets. Large, stone structures lay half-buried in the dirt, their once glorious architecture now crumbling under the weight of centuries. But Alex wasn't focused on the city's beauty. He was focused on what lay beneath it. The relic, the power that could either save or destroy everything they knew. The deeper they went, the more Alex felt a strange pull toward the heart of the city. There was something in the air, an energy that seemed to resonate with him. He couldn't explain it, but he knew it was connected to the relic. Whatever it was, he had a feeling that this mission was about to get a lot more dangerous and a lot more complicated. As they reached the central temple, Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Something was wrong. And he wasn't the only one who sensed it. Thalrose had stopped walking, his wings slightly raised as if on alert. "Stay close," Thalrose growled, his voice low. "I sense a presence." Alex's heart raced. The mercenaries weren't far behind. The chase for the relic had begun. The tension in the air was thick as Alex, Thalrose, and the small team of soldiers moved deeper into the ruins. The crumbling stone walls of the ancient city towered around them, the silent reminders of a once thriving civilization. Now it was just a ghost town, its treasures lost to time, and its mysteries waiting to be uncovered. But Alex could feel it, that uneasy feeling deep in his chest. He wasn't the only one. Thalrose led the way, his golden eyes scanning the surroundings with military precision. His massive wings barely fluttered, but they were alert, ready for anything. Alex, despite his mechanical knowledge, wasn't prepared for the danger that surrounded them. His mind kept racing, imagining what they might find, and what they might have to fight. The group continued on, careful of every step. The ground beneath them was uneven, and the air had a strange metallic scent that made Alex's nose twitch. As they walked through the long abandoned streets, the walls seemed to close in, the weight of the place pressing down on them. The ruins weren't just ancient, they were hostile, and every crack in the stone seemed to whisper of secrets long buried. The further they went, the more Alex felt that strange pull inside him. It was like the relic was calling to him, its power almost tangible. He could sense it now. Somewhere deep beneath the ground, hidden within the heart of the ruins, the relic was waiting. And so were the mercenaries. Thalrose stopped suddenly, raising a clawed hand to signal the group to halt. His keen senses had detected something that Alex couldn't yet perceive. "They're close," the dragon murmured, his voice low and steady. "Prepare yourselves." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had been hoping the mercenaries wouldn't find them, but it seemed his fears were about to become a reality. The soldiers around him tensed, their hands hovering over the weapons at their sides. Alex, for his part, had nothing but his wits and knowledge of machinery to rely on. He wasn't a fighter, not like Thalrose, but if things went south, he would do whatever it took to help. A soft sound echoed through the ruins. Footsteps, faint but unmistakable. Alex's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of movement. The group was crouched low now, moving slowly, careful not to alert the enemy. The ruins, once silent, now felt like they were alive with the whispers of danger. Then, without warning, a shadow darted across the path ahead. It was fast, too fast to be a normal person, and the glint of weapons reflected in the dim light. The mercenaries were here. Thalrose reacted in an instant. His wings unfurled, massive and powerful, and he leaped forward with terrifying speed. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his voice a rumble that seemed to shake the ground beneath them. Alex and the soldiers didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled to follow Thalrose as the dragon charged forward. his massive claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. A group of figures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing faintly with an unnatural light. They wore dark, form-fitting armor, and their weapons were sleek and alien in design. Exactly what Alex had feared. The mercenaries moved swiftly, their advanced training evident in their coordinated movements. They were well-equipped and dangerous, but Thalros was no slouch. He fought with the ferocity of a seasoned warrior, his tail swinging like a wrecking ball as he unleashed a barrage of fire and claw strikes. Each blow sent a mercenary flying, their armor cracking under the force of his attacks. Alex, though not a fighter, knew that the battle wasn't over yet. He glanced around, searching for a way to help. The soldiers were engaged in close combat, and Thalros was handling most of the mercenaries, but there were more of them. Much more. His gaze fell on a large pile of rubble nearby. It was an old structure, half destroyed and unstable, but there was something in it, a power source. The glow of a control panel, barely visible, flickered beneath the debris. Alex's mind began to race. If he could access it, he could turn the tables. But he would have to move quickly. "I'll handle this," Alex muttered to himself, and with a quick glance toward Thalros, he darted off in the direction of the rubble. The dragon didn't even glance back, too focused on his fight to worry about Alex's sudden departure. He trusted the mechanic more than he let on. If Alex said he could help, he would. As Alex reached the pile of rubble, he could hear the sounds of fighting growing louder behind him. His hands worked quickly, pulling away pieces of stone and metal, trying to uncover the control panel. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but he didn't stop. He knew that if he could power up the ancient defense system of the ruins, he could give the team a fighting chance. Finally, his fingers brushed the cold, smooth surface of the control panel. It was an old system, something that had been dormant for centuries. But Alex had dealt with machines like this before. He quickly connected the wires, bypassing the outdated security protocols. The panel flickered to life with a low hum. A bright light surged through the ruins, casting long shadows as a deep mechanical voice boomed through the speakers. Defensive systems activated. Warning: hostile presence detected. Engaging automatic defenses. Alex's heart pounded as he realized what he had just done. The ruins were coming to life. Above him, large, heavy doors began to creak open. From within the depths of the ruins, massive, automated turrets rose from the ground, their weapons aimed directly at the mercenaries. The air was filled with the shriek of charging energy cells, and the ground vibrated as a large armored wall slowly ascended from the earth, blocking off the mercenaries' escape routes. Thalros and the soldiers looked up in surprise as the ancient security systems activated. The mercenaries, clearly unprepared for this turn of events, quickly scrambled to regroup. But it was too late. The turrets opened fire, sending blasts of energy that tore through their ranks. The mercenaries were thrown into disarray, their armor being blasted apart under the relentless assault. "Nice work, Alex," one of the soldiers shouted over the noise. But Alex barely heard him. His attention was focused on the battle ahead. Thalros, realizing the odds had shifted in their favor, launched himself into the fray with renewed strength. His claws slashed through the remaining mercenaries, and with one powerful roar, he sent the last of them retreating into the shadows. But the danger wasn't over. The ruins still held many secrets, and Alex knew the relic was close. They couldn't waste time. Thalros turned to Alex, his golden eyes gleaming with a mixture of respect and urgency. "We've bought ourselves some time, but we're not done yet. The relic is deeper within these ruins. Stay sharp." Alex nodded, his heart still racing. He wasn't sure what they would face next, but he knew one thing for certain. The journey was far from over. They had just begun to uncover the secrets hidden within the ruins, and the relic they sought was still waiting to be found. As the team pressed on, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the mercenaries weren't the only threat they had to worry about. Something darker, something far more powerful, was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. And Alex had a sinking feeling that when they found the relic, it would unleash more than just power. It would unleash a danger they might not be ready for. The deeper they ventured into the ruins, the more Alex could feel the weight of the ancient city pressing down on them. The walls, carved with symbols from a long-lost civilization, seemed to hum with energy. The air was thick, and the silence was almost oppressive. Every step they took seemed to echo, a reminder that they were walking through the remnants of something far older and far more dangerous than they had imagined. Thalros, still in the lead, moved with a quiet grace that belied his massive size. His wings were folded against his back, but his sharp eyes never left the path ahead. The battle with the mercenaries had been intense, but now, as they drew closer to their goal, there was a sense of unease in the air. The dragon's usual confidence seemed tempered by something else, a knowing, like he could feel the pull of the relic as strongly as Alex did. The group pushed forward through narrow corridors and hidden chambers, their steps reverberating off the cold stone walls. The farther they went, the more Alex could sense the relic's presence. It wasn't just a physical thing. It was as if the very air around them vibrated with power. There were also whispers, barely audible but unmistakable, faint voices in the distance, like echoes of the past, or perhaps something more sinister. "Stay alert," Thalros warned in a hushed voice, his eyes scanning the shadows. "The relic's protection mechanisms are not easily bypassed." Alex nodded. He didn't need to be told twice. He wasn't sure what Thalros meant by protection mechanisms, but Alex had an uneasy feeling that whatever lay ahead would test them in ways they hadn't yet prepared for. He had a natural understanding of technology and how things worked, but he had never faced something as old and mysterious as this. Still, he trusted that his skills, combined with Thalros' strength and knowledge, would get them through. As they moved deeper, they entered a vast chamber, so large that the walls seemed to disappear into the darkness. The ceiling arched high above them, covered in strange, intricate carvings. At the center of the room, a massive pedestal stood, bathed in an eerie light that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as though the pedestal itself was alive, pulsating with energy. And there, upon it, rested a small, ornate box. The relic. Alex's heart skipped a beat as he took in the sight. It was beautiful in its simplicity. No glowing jewels, no extravagant displays, just an ancient yet pristine box. But Alex knew that the power it held could change everything. He felt a strange connection to it, as though his very presence had been expected. Thalros approached slowly, his golden eyes narrowing in concentration. "This is it," he murmured, "but it won't be easy to take." Alex's brow furrowed as he looked around the room. He had expected a simple retrieval, but the unease in the air was unmistakable. He could feel it now, like a weight in his chest. There was something wrong. The air seemed to thicken, and suddenly, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They were no longer just echoes. Alex could hear distinct words now, though they were not in any language he knew. "Turn back," the voice hissed. "Leave this place." Thalros stepped forward, ignoring the warning. "The relic is ours," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. Without warning, the room trembled, and the ground beneath them shifted. The pedestal began to rise, and ancient mechanisms that had been dormant for millennia clicked into life. A loud grinding sound filled the room as massive stone doors began to close at both ends of the chamber, sealing them in. Alex's eyes widened in panic. "We've triggered something," he shouted. Before anyone could react, a shadow emerged from the darkness, a figure cloaked in swirling mist, barely visible against the dim light. It moved with unnatural speed, and Alex's instincts screamed that they were not alone. The figure's shape flickered in and out of existence, but there was no mistaking the menacing presence it exuded. Thalros spun around, his wings flaring out as he bared his fangs. "We have company." The figure stepped forward, revealing itself. It was a tall being, humanoid in shape, but with an aura of otherworldly power. Its skin was translucent, shimmering like the surface of a pool of water. Its eyes, glowing faintly with an unnatural light, locked onto Thalros. "You seek the relic." The being spoke, its voice echoing in Alex's mind, more a feeling than words. "You are not worthy." Alex's breath caught in his throat. The being wasn't just powerful. It was ancient, far older than the ruins themselves. A guardian, perhaps, or something more. He couldn't tell, but it was clear that this was no mere adversary. This entity had been waiting for centuries, and now its time had come. Thalros growled, stepping forward. "We are worthy. The relic belongs to us." The being raised a hand, and with a flick of its wrist, the stone walls of the chamber shifted, revealing hidden traps that Alex had not noticed before. Strange, arcane symbols glowed on the floor, and with a deep, resonating hum, the floor beneath them began to rise, separating them into two smaller sections of the room. "Your words mean nothing," the being said, its voice a whisper that seemed to rattle the very air. "Only one may leave with the relic." Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and the room was filled with a strange, pulsing energy that made Alex's skin crawl. The floor beneath them rumbled again, and before they could react, enormous stone statues, long buried under layers of dust, began to move. Their eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, and their massive stone arms swung toward the group. Thalros roared in fury and launched himself at the nearest statue, but the stone warrior blocked him with a heavy fist, sending the dragon crashing into the ground. The fight was on, and Alex knew they were in for the battle of their lives. As the statues closed in, Alex's mind raced. He needed to think fast, or they'd be trapped here forever. The relic might hold the key to their survival, but getting to it was going to be a far harder task than he had anticipated. The ancient guardians of this place had risen to defend it, and now they would fight until the last breath. The sound of battle filled the chamber. Stone against fire, ancient power against modern technology. Thalros fought with the fury of a dragon, his claws tearing through the stone guardians with incredible force. But the statues were relentless, and Alex could feel the pressure mounting. It was clear now. The true test had only just begun, and the relic, though within reach, would not be easily claimed. The battle raged on, the room alive with the sounds of chaos. Thalros, fierce and relentless, tore through the stone guardians with each swing of his claws, his fire lighting up the room in fiery bursts. His tail whipped around with lethal precision, knocking statues off balance, but for every guardian he destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The ancient defenses were overwhelming, and the dragon, despite his immense strength, was beginning to tire. Alex darted through the battlefield, his mind racing. He knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The statues were relentless, and the energy from the relic pulsed stronger with every passing second, as if the very air in the chamber was growing more charged with power. The room itself seemed to be alive, reacting to the fight in ways that Alex couldn't fully understand. But one thing was clear: they couldn't just fight their way out of this. The statues were only the beginning, and whatever force controlled this place was not going to let them leave easily. Alex's gaze darted to the pedestal in the center of the room. The relic sat there, glowing with an ethereal light, untouched and seemingly waiting for them to make a move. But getting to it, getting past these relentless guardians, seemed impossible. "Thalros!" Alex shouted, his voice barely cutting through the noise of the battle. The dragon was locked in combat with another statue, his breath coming in labored bursts. He looked up briefly, meeting Alex's gaze, and Alex saw the weariness in his golden eyes. Thalros was strong, but even he could only fight for so long. "We need a plan," Alex shouted over the clash of stone and flame. "I can't get to the relic while these things are still here." The dragon growled in frustration but nodded, his sharp mind working even in the heat of battle. "Agreed," Thalros grunted. "But what do you suggest?" Alex glanced around, taking in the environment. The statues were formidable, but they were also predictable. The energy from the relic was growing stronger, and if he could somehow use that to his advantage. Alex's heart skipped a beat as an idea began to form. He couldn't do it alone, but with Thalro's help, it might just work. Distract them, Alex said quickly, already backing toward one of the side walls. I'll try something. Keep them off me for a moment. Thalros nodded without hesitation, launching himself back into the fray. His wings flared, and with a powerful roar, he dove toward the nearest statue, slamming his body into it with enough force to send the massive figure tumbling backward. The dragon was using every ounce of his strength, fighting with a fury that only a creature of his kind could muster. As the stone guardians closed in, Thalros met them head-on, his claws slashing through the air, his fire streaking across the room, lighting up the chamber like a storm of destruction. Meanwhile, Alex moved swiftly, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't afford to hesitate. His hands trembled slightly as he approached a panel in the side of the room, a panel he'd spotted earlier, hidden beneath layers of dust and debris. It was old, covered in strange symbols, but Alex could tell it was important. If he could just activate it, maybe he could turn the tide of the battle. His fingers flew over the controls, bypassing ancient security systems with the precision only a mechanic could achieve. The panel hummed to life, lights flickering on and off, as if waking from a centuries-long slumber. For a moment, nothing happened. Alex held his breath, praying that his instincts were right. Then, with a low hum, the floor beneath him rumbled, and the massive stone doors began to creak open again. Alex's eyes widened. This wasn't just a door. It was a direct path to the core of the ruin, the very heart of the ancient structure, and it was directly beneath the pedestal where the relic sat. Thalros, Alex shouted, his voice urgent. I've got a way through. Get to the center. The dragon, covered in dust and grime from the battle, didn't hesitate for a second. With a powerful leap, he vaulted over the nearest guardian, dodging a blow from its stone fist, and tore toward the pedestal. As he approached, the stone statues seemed to sense the change, their movements growing erratic. But it was too late. The ground beneath them shifted, and the pedestal slowly began to sink into the floor, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling downward into the depths. Thalros landed next to Alex, his breath heavy, but his resolve unwavering. Let's move, he growled. The two of them sprinted toward the opening, the stone guardians closing in behind them. Alex's mind raced as he led the way, ducking and weaving around the shifting architecture of the ruin. The air grew colder as they descended into the depths, the stone walls slick with moisture, the faint light from above flickering out of sight. They were now in the heart of the ruin, far from the surface, and the atmosphere here was thick with something ancient, something alive. As they reached the bottom of the staircase, they entered a vast chamber. The walls were lined with towering columns, their surfaces covered in the same strange symbols that had been etched throughout the ruins. The relic's energy pulsed more intensely here, as if the very walls of the chamber were feeding off its power. At the center of the room, resting upon another pedestal, was the relic, its form now fully revealed. It was a small, intricately carved box, no bigger than a human's fist, but the aura of power it exuded was undeniable. The air around it shimmered, and Alex could feel the energy coursing through him, drawing him in. He reached out instinctively, his fingers just brushing the surface of the box, but as he did, a loud crash echoed behind them. The stone doors slammed shut, sealing the chamber they were in. A voice, low and guttural, rumbled through the air. You have come far, but this is as far as you go. Alex spun around, his pulse quickening. The being from earlier, the guardian of the relic, was there, its translucent form shimmering in the dim light. It had followed them down into the depths, and it wasn't alone. More figures, similar in appearance to the first, materialized around them, blocking any escape. Alex's heart raced. They had reached the relic, but now they faced the true guardians, the ones who had waited for centuries to ensure no one took the relic from this place. "We are not leaving without it," Falros said, his voice steady, though his golden eyes burned with intensity. The fight wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. The air crackled with tension as the guardians prepared to strike. The power of the relic pulsed between them, a force stronger than anything Alex had ever felt. And as the guardians closed in, Alex knew that the choices they made in the next moments would shape the fate of the entire galaxy. This was no longer just about retrieving a relic. It was about survival. The chamber was deathly silent as the guardians encircled them, their glowing eyes fixed on Alex and Falros. The oppressive energy from the relic seemed to grow stronger with each passing second, and Alex could feel it pulling at him, urging him to take it, to unlock its power. But even with the relic so close, the danger surrounding them was far more immediate. The ancient guardians weren't simply protectors. They were the last line of defense, and they were not about to let anyone claim what they had sworn to guard for millennia. Falros stepped forward, his massive form dwarfing Alex's. His wings, torn and singed from the earlier battle, stretched out wide, and his claws twitched as he prepared for another fight. The dragon's golden eyes blazed with a fire that matched the intensity of the power in the room. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Alex, for the relic, and for the future they both hoped to shape. "We are taking the relic," Falros growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "And we will not be stopped." The guardians didn't respond with words. Instead, their forms flickered, and in an instant, they rushed toward them. They moved with an unnatural speed, their translucent bodies shifting and distorting as they closed in on Alex and Falros. Falros reacted first, his claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. His wings beat hard, sending gusts of wind through the chamber, throwing several of the guardians off balance. The dragon roared, his fire erupting from his throat in a massive blast, engulfing two of the guardians in a wave of heat and light. The stone-like figures staggered, but they didn't fall. Instead, their forms shimmered and reformed, as if they were not bound by the laws of time and physics. "Not enough," Falros muttered under his breath. The dragon could see that brute strength alone wouldn't be enough to defeat these guardians. They were ancient, their power bound to the very heart of the ruins. He could kill them, but they would keep coming back. They needed a different approach. Alex, watching the battle unfold, felt a cold sweat forming on the back of his neck. He wasn't a warrior like Falros. He didn't have the strength or the combat skills to fight these beings head-on. But his mind was his weapon. And in this moment, his knowledge of technology and ancient machinery might just be their salvation. "Falros," Alex shouted, his voice urgent. "We need to disable the chamber's core. The relic is tied to it. If we can shut it down, the guardians will lose their power." The dragon glanced over at him, his expression both surprised and frustrated. "How do you propose we do that?" Falros snapped, barely managing to dodge a swipe from one of the guardians. Alex's mind raced. He looked around the chamber, taking in the walls, the floor, the relic, and the ancient technology embedded into every corner. The guardians were the product of this place, a mechanism designed to protect the relic at all costs. If they could disrupt the flow of energy that powered the room, the guardians would likely cease to function. "There," Alex said, pointing to a glowing symbol carved into the floor near the pedestal. The symbol was ancient, covered in dust, but it pulsed faintly in sync with the energy coming from the relic. "That's the source." Falros didn't hesitate. He launched himself at the nearest guardian, knocking it back with a mighty blow. "Hold them off," he ordered. "I'll deal with the core." Alex nodded, his heart pounding as he dashed toward the symbol on the floor. The guardians were closing in fast, but he didn't have time to waste. He knelt down, his fingers brushing the strange symbols on the stone, feeling the power surge beneath his touch. It was like nothing he had ever felt before, raw, unyielding energy, ancient and untamable. His mind focused, and he recalled the methods used to control energy flows in older, forgotten technologies. The relic was somehow tied to this energy, and the core was the key to controlling it. Alex's hands moved quickly, tracing the symbols with expert precision, bypassing security protocols that were millennia old. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he worked, feeling the power growing stronger with every second. Behind him, Thalros was battling the Guardians with everything he had. The dragon's claws tore through their forms, but each time he struck, they reformed, undeterred. It was clear now that Thalros couldn't fight them forever. He was powerful, but these Guardians weren't like anything they had encountered before.